create a recovery drive. So I'll just go to the Windows, type in for the search, recovery. And I'm going to, what is it? Create a recovery drive. Is it going to be that one? I think that's it. There it is. So this will give me the option to boot up. Even if your PC can't start, you can use the recovery drive to reset it or troubleshoot problems. If your backup system files to this drive, you'll also be able to use it to reinstall Windows, and that's what I want. I'm putting a 64 gig drive as my recovery drive, my USB drive for this laptop. Now you can use a smaller one. I believe you can do it up to 16 gigs, but I'd rather do it larger so I can store other files like software and drivers for this actual laptop on this drive to have everything backed up in one place. I inserted my USB disk. So it found it, USB disk available. Sorry, 16, it's 32 gigs. Click next. It will be erased. Nothing could be recoverable after you do this. And do create. The recovery drive is done. Let me click finish. I just want to see the actual drive itself to see what file format it is. There it is right there. There's 31 gigs left. FAT32. And I could add additional files to it because they didn't take up the whole amount of space. And this is everything. Which one has the most items? 33 megabytes. Sources. 23 gigs. So it's all in here. I guess everything you need. Great. All right, let's go. I upgraded the RAM to 64 gigs. Now I'm upgrading the hard drive to 8 terabytes. Unplug the computer. And unplug the mouse. I already took the screws off. It's 8 screws here. Need to be removed. They're all off right now. Because I was upgrading the memory. I decided not to screw them back in since I needed to upgrade the hard drive. In the memory video upgrade, I showed this. I made my own little template and taped the screws as to where they go on the actual back of the computer. So this is the front, that's the back. The 3 screws here, the 2 screws here, the 3 screws here. I don't have one of those fancy white magnetic things. I probably should get one, but I don't have one, so I just made my own, just to make sure that I put the screws in the right places, as the fronts are different than the backs. So be wary of that, that these are longer, the ones here, than the ones in the front, and a lot shorter. You can see how much smaller that screw is compared to that one. I'm installing 2 of these. These are 2 4 terabyte Western Digital Black SN850X generation 4 7300 megabytes read and write. Actually says read, I believe it's read and write. NVMe. I believe this is the largest drive that Western Digital makes at this time. Let's open it up. I'm going to remove the bottom. Be gentle in removing the bottom. It clips off. Just catch it at a corner and gently snap it off little by little. I'm a regular user. I'm not an expert. This is where I'm going to install the new M.2, but first we have to remove, or disconnect, I should say, the battery. The battery disconnect has a little slot right here. Let me show you with around this edge here. And I've been using my fingers to disconnect it. This hasn't been working well. I'm sure there are other tools, but I just don't have the tool with me or available. So I'm just going to use my fingernail, and there's a slot, a little slot here. It's right there, the little black slot part of the plastic. I'll do a close-up when I get it done. And you just work on it from left to middle to right to middle to left with your fingernail. Easy, because if you're not careful and you break it, you have to get a new one. You don't want to replace something that it's already new. And look, I disconnected it. See? So there's an edge. You got to disconnect the battery when you're working in here. You don't want to short out the laptop. So there's an edge right here. You can't see it because of the lighting, but right here, there's an edge. And you just work on it with your finger to disconnect it. Easy. You got to do right, left, right, middle, left, left, middle, right. Little by little. You just work it little by little. I'm doing RAID 0 to get a total of 8 terabytes. When I do that, I'm going to have to actually install the drivers because the computer won't recognize it. And I'll have to do some configurations. I believe I have to go into the BIOS and set it to RAID 0. And I will. Once I set it to RAID 0, I should be able to install it as an 8 terabyte brand new drive. I don't have, it didn't come, I don't think that the hard drive came with the screw. This is the actual hard drive, and there is no, didn't come with any screws at all. We'll be placing this here on the side, and there are, no, it didn't come with any screws inside the box at all. So I'm gonna have to find another screw. I have a bunch of them to screw it in, I believe right over here. And I gotta remove this one. To remove the actual drive that came, you're gonna need a heat sink. So I actually purchased one. Everything I'm doing here, the software and the items I purchased, links will be below. This is the actual screw. Put it to the side for safeguarding. And remove remove it. Pretty easy, just slides right out. You lift it up a little bit and it slides right out. And this is the heat sink on top. On the original, I will be keeping the original just in case I have to return this. I have a warranty, so if anything happens to the laptop within 2 years, I can actually return the laptop, and I don't want to return it with the two 4 terabytes. I will return it with what it came with, which is a 1 terabyte. Install the first one. Oh, I have to get the heatsink. Give me one moment. These are the heat sinks I got for the M.2 drive. Link is below. You can buy your own kind. It's up to you. It comes in a pack of 2. Read the instructions to see how to put this on. Should be simple. So I'm just gonna put the heat sink on one of the drives. The other one, I'm gonna put the original heat sink, since it seems to be working well, easy to take off and put on the actual M.2 drive. This is the original one from the original drive. Safeguard the original, like I said, just in case you have to return it. So let me make sure that the original heatsink fits on the new M.2. It should, since everything should be exactly the same size. Okay, there it goes. Yeah. Perfectly. Just screw it until it stops turning. Nothing more. Don't force it at all. Okay, stop turning. Now let's put the heatsink on the second one. I'm not an expert, so do this at your own risk. Step number 1, use wet wipes, bag number 1, to remove dirt on the front side of the M.2 SSD, the side with chips. Use dry wipes, bag number 2, to make it dry. So I am not going to do that because it has the writing on here. I'm not going to use, let me see how wet it is. It's a little wet. I don't really want to wet an electronic. I'm going to try to do just the middle, just to kind of clean the middle, and that's it. Not too much. And then I'm going to dry it right away. I really don't want to get the wet anywhere else. Dry it off. Okay, number 2 is remove the protective film on both sides of the heat conducting silica gel pad. So I'm assuming there's 4 of them. I don't know why it came with 4, so I'm just going to use 1. So you remove the protective covering on both of these, and I'm assuming it's gonna lay on top of that, but Let's go to step number 3. 3, put the silica gel pad on the front side of the M.2 SSD to make it at the middle part of the M.2 SSD. Later, put the back side of the heatsink on the silica gel pad, then press in with your fingers gently. So I'm going to, yep, okay, this should be the middle because it's just enough space to put the screw on and just where the chips are. Perfect. So now let me open up the heatsink and put that on the drive, and I think both sides are the same. There should be no difference between the two. Putting it right, try to put it visually right at the edge. Okay. That looks good, if you ask me. Right at the edge. I did both sides. I hope these don't melt. Let's hope for the best. That's what it says on the instructions, so I'm just doing what it says. Then we do the final installation. All done, screwed in, both screws. And now we close up. Oh, well, first we have to put the power back on, so. Perfect. Little by little, you'll get it. Take your time. Once you boot up, this comes up because the battery was turned off. So let me go to the BIOS setup. Under Advanced, NVMe, and I'm assuming since it says Raid on, I would put it, that's the way it was, that's the default setting, so Raid on. And now we will go down to, sorry, I went to the wrong place. So now you go into the Intel Rapid Storage Technology option. We had already under the SATA NVMe operation, Raid on. Okay, NVMe operation, Raid on. Go down to Intel Rapid Storage Technology, go in there. And in here, we're going to the Intel create a RAID volume. So we're going to click on that. And RAID level volume 1. So I'm going to rename it. I can actually rename it here. And name it RAID 0. Okay, press enter. So now I'm going to arrow down to the RAID type so I can choose between RAID 0 stripe or RAID 1 mirror. RAID 1 mirror, it's not really for performance, even though I have high performance SSDs installed. RAID 1 is more for backups. It's more for an exact mirror or duplicate of each drive. So I don't want to do that. That's more if you have a lot of sensitive data. I keep my data off my computers. They're always external. Back them up to the cloud, things like that. Because of that issue with the drive going on you one day, or everything's going to eventually fail and you don't want to have important things on there. So if you're worried about things like that, you choose RAID 1. Both drives will be used. One will be used to run apps and install programs and things like that. The other one will be used to make an exact backup of that one drive. I don't want to do that. I'm choosing RAID 0 for performance. It should double my speed, hopefully. RAID 0 will split the data in half pretty much and write to both drives simultaneously. The biggest difference between the two, besides performance, is that RAID 1, I have two 4 terabyte drives in there. With RAID 1, I would only have 4 terabytes of data or space. RAID 0 will give me 8. So now we're going to create the RAID 0, and we have to select the disk. So I arrowed down to the different drives. See, 4,000 terabytes. I mean, 4,000 gigabytes. Wow. Imagine 4,000 terabytes. So under this option, we are going to arrow down here to the X and choose enter. We're going to arrow down to the next disk. These are the 2 disks. We need 2 disks to create a RAID. And as you will see, wow, that's a big RAID. Let me just do something really quickly. As you'll see there, select at least 2 disks to create a RAID volume. So and that's the 8 terabytes. Okay, so let's scroll down to, or arrow down to create volume and see what happens. Wow, 7.2 terabytes. Awesome. So let's save and exit, which will be F10. So you can see F10 to save and exit. And now save configuration. Let me take this out and restart. Yes. Awesome. We just created our RAID 0. Nice. Now we can start the install. Finally, I'm getting this window, and what I had to do is I had to create a Windows 11 installation media USB disk back here. So when I created the recovery file for this laptop, I was hoping that that would include this file, and I don't think it did, or it was corrupt. Something went wrong. So I just went back and I just created just a Windows 11. Let me just show you. This is what I used. I put the 12/20/22 on the bottom, but it's to create a Windows 11 installation media, and that's what I had to do to get the window that you just saw. So I'm gonna just go the long way. I don't know if the restore or the recovery USB disk that I created is either corrupt or not working. So I'm going the long way. I'm gonna do it. Installation of Windows 11 and then install everything else afterwards. I did copy the RAID drivers onto this disk. So that shouldn't be an issue. I can search for the RAID drivers when the option comes up. I'm going to have to use custom install. As you can see, nothing there. So let's install the drivers. The installation says it right there. Load drivers. So let's click on load drivers. And we're gonna have to choose browse. So you browse to it and you choose RAID drivers here. And click OK. And there is the driver. Now understand that the RAID driver file, that's what I created. I just copied it onto the Windows 11 installation disk. So I'm gonna leave it on the first choice and click on next and see what happens. So once the driver is loaded, we get our disk. As you can see, the RAID 0 configuration is working. The software is reading it. One drive, almost 8 gigs. That's what 2 4TB NVMe drives will give you in space. Now let's continue to install the software. Click next. Let's see how long it takes. It's 7:15 p.m. Wow, amazing. 14 minutes to install Windows 11 on this laptop with RAID 0, the 2 4TB SSDs. I should have done a video of when it said 7:15. That's pretty impressive. I just installed since this is a fresh install with none of the drivers or anything, I just put in the drive I created for the Alienware laptop, the recovery disk. And I'm gonna boot to it to see what options it gives me. Maybe now with the OS, with this OS fully installed, I can restore it back to the default Alienware laptop settings with the drivers and software. So let me see what happens when I reboot. I believe it's F12. I'm going to boot it up after pressing F12. It booted up to this menu. Boot mode is set to UEFI, secure boot on. Okay, forget about that. I'm gonna arrow down to the USB 1 boot manager. I just want everything back to the way it was when I purchased the laptop. I want an exact image of it. So I think I needed to install the Windows OS and then boot to this recovery disk that I created in the Alienware laptop. So I'm just going to skip this drive. I don't know why it's asking me that. I don't know what that is. I just skipped it. I know about this option. I've chosen this one before when I'm selling my PC. It's supposed to be just like an Apple device. It really cleans out all your data. Hopefully it does work. I am just keeping my PC, so I'm just going to just remove my files, and I'm going to recover from this USB drive. Hopefully it'll put everything. It'll put the Alienware wallpaper and all the drivers back in place, and the software. So I'm just going to just remove my files. Recover. So it's recovering the data from the USB disk. Let's see how long this takes. It is 7:40 p.m. We're now at this screen. So the restore took longer than the Windows total installation. It took 30 minutes, 8:10 p.m. And everything's back, all the drivers, everything. And The actual drive, as you will see, let me eject this. So that's the USB, and that's it right there. The OS, 8 gigs, Raid0, 24 terabyte SSD, Western, hold on 1 second, you will see right there. That is a lot of space and a lot of speed. 2 Western Digital Black NVMe SSDs, 4 terabytes, 7,300 megabytes read and write. Installation on the Raid0 configuration in the new DeLL X17R2 laptop. This is going to be the ultimate maxed out laptop. 8 terabytes. And the actual 64 gigs. I maxed out the memory, 64 gigs of RAM also. Again, on the DeLL X17R2. I'm going to do a speed test and all that, but that's going to be another video. All right, thank you for joining me. I know it's a long video. If you've lasted this long, then you're very interested in what I had to go through to get Raid0 working, but I got it working. Really fast installs, much faster. Like you saw, I had to install Windows and then install the restore, then use the restore disk to restore it back to the factory defaults from DeLL. Okay, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. Thank you. Bye.